Right, law enforcement officers rather, are in the crosshairs of the radical left, and all signs are suggesting that the anti-police push we've seen so far is just the beginning. Making news today is a since-deleted tweet by professional basketball player LeBron James, who yesterday posted a picture of a police officer with the caption, "You're next, #accountability." The officer he called out was one who fatally shot a black teen who charged at another young woman with a knife in Columbus, Ohio on Tuesday. In this increasingly anti-police climate, Republican senators are making an effort to protect the many good men and women in law enforcement serving across the nation from being targeted with violence as they perform their essential duties. With me now to talk about the Protect and Serve Act that he recently reintroduced is U.S. Senator John Boozman from Arkansas. Senator, welcome back to the program.
Well, thank you for having me as always, Tony. And we teamed up with Senator Tillis and Cotton to try and move this legislation forward. And what it has to do with is targeting policemen. I was looking at the statistics, 300 shot in the line of duty last year, 47 killed. We've already had 14 officers actually have died in the line of duty this year. So I had forgotten, Tony, you've done a lot of things and served your country in many different ways. I'd forgotten that you were on the police force for many, many years. And again, thank you for your service in that regard.
Well, thank you, Senator. Those statistics that you just put out there, I must have missed it, but I've not heard the media talking about that.
No, you're exactly right. The good news, though, is, I'm out and about Arkansas and throughout the country. And despite the rhetoric that we hear on television and this and that, there is tremendous support for our law enforcement community. So this is all about those that target policemen, trying to make that a federal crime and bring all of the federal wherewithal as far as going after people that, actually do this, bringing in the tremendous force of the Justice Department and all they've got to do to get after those that would do these things.
Yeah, needed now more than ever. I mean, obviously, we've talked about this on the program. In every profession, you have individuals who do not meet the standards and do not act and perform according to the established guidelines. Those individuals need to be dealt with. And I think we saw yesterday that does happen. Our system works. But we cannot destroy an entire element of our society that makes law and order work. And that's exactly what we see unfolding.
You're exactly right. And the good news is that the law enforcement does have tremendous support from those that are, out and about in the country. We always remember that the officers are the ones that are running to the danger, right, while the rest of us are getting out of the way. We take that for granted. We take for granted the great work that they do. And so this is just another effort for us to be supportive and to really use the might of the federal government to help protect our officers that are out in the field.
Well, Senator, I want to commend you for doing this in the present environment because too many people want to shrink back from the controversy. And I know they're going to be, take shots at you for doing this. But we need to stand with our law enforcement community, those who do protect and serve. They are vital to law and order in our country. I want to transition to another topic, Senator, because earlier today, Senate Republicans unveiled a $568 billion infrastructure proposal intended to be a counteroffer to President Biden's $2.3 trillion American Jobs Plan. What can you tell us about it?
Well, Republicans and in the past, Democrats also have been interested in infrastructure, making it such that we start repairing the nation's infrastructure. I think we would all agree that our roads and railroads, runways, broadband, all of those things need work. And you could argue that the reason that we're the great powerhouse that we are economically is our transportation system. That was started really in the way that we have it now in a modern way through the Eisenhower administration building the Interstate. So we need to protect that. We need to strengthen our infrastructure. So this was just a good faith effort to say, hey, let's work on these things. Yeah, the problem is, as you know, the Democrats would like to do all kinds of stuff. And I just don't see them agreeing, in the sense what they want to do is combine infrastructure with a bunch of everything that you can imagine, another $1 trillion worth of stuff that has absolutely nothing to do with
Right.
infrastructure. They use infrastructure as the sweetener to try and get votes for the entire package.
What's
and in
interesting
that package would be tax increases and the whole bit.
What's very interesting about the infrastructure, and you go back to the Eisenhower interstate system, which was designed after World War II because of the need for national security. Because from Europe, where they tried to move around military equipment and assets, it was almost impossible. So they realized, look, we need to have a better system here to move our military assets around. So the whole design was actually not for the economy. It was for a vital responsibility that our federal government has. The total opposite of what we see in the president's plan that he's putting forth for $2.3 trillion.
No, you're exactly right. And certainly things are going to be done at the expense, I think, of our military with the president. It'll be interesting to see as we get the final budget and exactly what they're trying to do. But this is just, I think it's just talking. Democrats are basically saying we'd like to be bipartisan. We want to work on this. I know as they brought this plan forward that already you've had several Democrats saying, no, this is small ball. We've got to go much, much greater. In the other plan, the plan that was the infrastructure plan that they've changed to the jobs plan, because they were trying to make the argument that daycare and things like that was actually infrastructure. They shifted out of that, but you had more dollars dedicated to electric vehicles than roads, railroads, and runways and ports. Much, much more money.
Well,
so it doesn't make a lot of sense.
I think they're justified in calling the earlier version an infrastructure bill because they're throwing the next generation under the bus. With the cost of this, I mean, it is it's irresponsible. But I want to go to something else about irresponsibility. I want to play another clip, a little of what the Republican leader had to say about the crisis on the border.
This past weekend, the President of the United States himself slipped up and used that forbidden word. But get this, he was then overruled by his own staff. Yesterday, his press secretary said President Biden actually didn't intend to describe the situation as a crisis. Fascinating.
Is it a crisis on our southern border?
No, it's absolutely crazy. Not last Congress, but the Congress before that, I was the chair of the Homeland Security Appropriations Subcommittee, which funds the Border Guard, ICE, all of those things. I spent a lot of time on the border. Our border guards are wonderful. Border Patrol are wonderful people that are doing such a great job. And, they're so compassionate and trying to do all they can. They are getting just besieged. And I think that's a correct word. To say that this isn't a crisis is so hypocritical. When I was, having to deal on a weekly basis regarding the border, that was considered a crisis at that point. And now it's beyond imagination. 172,000 last month, 18,890 unaccompanied adults. Kids are showing up. They'll put a postcard or something taped to their chest that has a number and a relative, supposed relative, and just dropped off. The border is secure. It's secure in the sense that the cartels know everybody that's crossing, and they're getting a cut out of everyone that crosses. They're enriching themselves, but it is truly a huge, huge, huge problem. The other thing was when I was dealing with it, 3 or 4 years ago, the backlog of trying to adjudicate all of these people was about 550,000 people. We thought that was unimaginably large, truly a crisis. Now it's swelled up to, I think, 1.3 million or 1.4 million, something like that. So however you measure it, and we do need to measure things, there's no measurement that doesn't indicate that what's going on down there is truly a crisis in every sense. It's a crisis for the border guard. that are working so very hard, too hard. It's a crisis for the NGOs that are trying hard to manage the situation. And then truly the people that are being preyed upon. The list just goes on and on.
Right. Yeah. It is a crisis. No doubt about it. Senator
No doubt about it.
Boozman, thanks so much for joining us. As always, great to talk with you. Thanks for coming on the program today.
Well, thank you for having us. And again, a special thanks for your service in other ways as a police officer. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Senator. Appreciate that. And
Thank
thanks
you.
for sticking up for those that wear the badge.